A sense of purpose is at the very top of the pyramid of self-actualization created by Abraham Maslow more than 50 years ago. Through his research, Dr. Maslow discovered that those who feel purposeful are living the highest qualities that humanity has to offer. During the many years I've been in the fields of human development, motivation, and spiritual awareness, this is the topic that more people inquire about than anything else. I'm repeatedly asked questions such as, how do I find my purpose? Does such a thing really exist? Why didn't I know my purpose in life? Well, being on purpose is what the most self-actualized people accomplish on their life journeys. But many individuals feel little sense of purpose and may even doubt that they have a purpose in life in the first place. Feeling purposeful. In response to the question, what should I do with my life? I suggest that there's only one thing you can do with it, since you came into this life with nothing and you'll leave with nothing. You can give it away. You'll feel most on purpose when you're giving your life away by serving others. When you're giving to others, to your planet and to your source, you're being purposeful. Whatever it is that you choose to do, if you're motivated to be of service to others while being authentically detached from the outcome, you'll feel on purpose, regardless of how much abundance may flow back to you. Allow yourself to be in the feeling place within you that's unconcerned with such things as vocational choice or doing the things you are destined to do. When you're in the service of others or extending kindness beyond your own boundaries, you'll feel connected to your source. You'll feel happy and content knowing that you're doing the right thing. Outside of my chosen occupation, I feel purposeful in a myriad of ways virtually every single day. When I extend assistance to someone in need, when I take a moment to cheer up a disgruntled employee in a restaurant or a store, or when I make a child laugh who sits otherwise ignored in a stroller, or even when I pick up a piece of litter and place it in a trash can, I feel that I'm giving myself away, and as such, I feel purposeful. Essentially what I'm saying here is this. Stay on purpose by expressing the 7 phases of intention, and the details will find you. You'll never, ever again have to ask what your purpose is or how to find it. Your purpose will find you. What thoughts do you have that inhibit you from feeling as if you're on purpose in your life? For instance, if you think that you're separate from your purpose and that you're drifting without direction throughout your life, then that's precisely what you'll attract. Suppose instead that you know this is a purposeful universe where your thoughts and your emotions and your actions are all a part of your free will and are also connected to the power of intention. Suppose that your thoughts of being purposeless and aimless are really a part of your purpose. Just as the thought of losing someone you love makes you love them even more, or an illness makes you treasure your health, supposing that it takes the thought of your unimportance to make you realize your value. When you're awake enough to question your purpose and ask how to connect to it, you're being prodded by the power of intention. The very act of questioning why you're here is an indication that your thoughts are nudging you to reconnect to the field of intention. What's the source of your thoughts about your purpose? Why do you want to feel purposeful? Why is a sense of purpose considered the highest attribute of a fully functioning person? The source of thought is an infinite reservoir of energy and intelligence. In a sense, thoughts about your purpose are really your purpose trying to connect to you. This infinite reservoir of loving, kind, creative, abundant energy grew out of the originating intelligence and is stimulating you to express this universal mind in your own unique way. Your silent inner knowing. Esteemed psychologist and philosopher William James once wrote, quote, "In the dim background of our mind, we know meanwhile what we ought to be doing, but somehow we cannot start. Every moment we expect the spell to break, but it does continue pulse after pulse, and we float with it," unquote. In my experience as a therapist and as a speaker talking with thousands of people about their lives, I've come to the same conclusion. Somewhere, buried deep within each of us, is a call to purpose. It's not always rational, and it's not always clearly delineated, and sometimes even seemingly absurd, but the knowing is there. There's a silent something within that intends you to express yourself. That something is your soul. It's telling you to listen and connect through love, kindness, and receptivity to this power of intention. That silent inner knowing will never leave you alone. You may try to ignore it and pretend it doesn't exist, but in honest, alone moments of contemplative communion with yourself, you sense the emptiness waiting for you to fill it with your music. It wants you to take the risks that are involved and to ignore your ego and the egos of others who tell you that an easier, safer, or more secure path is best for you. When you're inspired by a great purpose, everything will begin to work for you. Inspiration comes from moving back in spirit and connecting to the 7 faces of intention. When you feel inspired, what appeared to be risky becomes a path you feel compelled to follow. The risks are gone because you're following your bliss, which is the truth within you. This is really love working in harmony with your intention. Essentially, if you don't feel love, you don't feel the truth, and your truth is all wrapped up in your connection to spirit. This is why inspiration is such an important part of the fulfillment of your intention to live a life on purpose. You may think it's too risky to give up a salary, a pension, job security, or familiar surroundings because of a dim nightlight in your mind that draws you to see why it's turned on. I suggest that there are no risks at all if you pay attention to that light, which is your knowing. Combine your strong knowing with the faith that Spirit will provide, and you acknowledge the power of intention at work. You are a divine, infinite creation, making the choice to be on purpose and to be connected to the power of intention. It all revolves around your being harmoniously connected to your source. Again, it all revolves around your being harmoniously connected to your source. Faith eliminates the risk when you choose to trust that inner knowing about your purpose and become a channel for the power of intention. By turning the purpose of your life into one of service and leaving behind your self-absorption, you discover the irony of manifesting. The more you choose to be of service, the more profoundly you experience unconditional love, and the more you find materializing into your life. Service is best thought of as a continuous focus in your life rather than being limited to certain kinds of giving activities. Service is a state of mind that expresses love rather than fear, trust rather than distrust. It focuses on meeting all others as equals with whom we share a spiritual identity. This inner attitude of love reveals itself in action. Service does not require that you become a Mother Teresa. You serve by suspending your ego and extending the love that fills that space. It can take a million different forms, but when practiced with authenticity, from the heart, it makes all that is manifested into your life worthwhile. The only problem you will encounter is attempting to give or serve without love. Service without love is obligation, and it carries guilt and anger and resentment along with it. Work at being in a state of unconditional love with your service efforts, and when love is not authentically present, acknowledge that as well.
You get back from the universe, from the world, what it is that you put out there in the world. If your message to the universe is gimme, 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 which is a lot of people's message to the universe. I want this from you, I want that from you, please give me this, I have to have that. That's what their prayer is like, that's what their message is, and they say, I want this from the universe, gimme, gimme, gimme. The universe's response back to that kind of a mentality is exactly the same. The universe will say right back to you over and over again, gimme, gimme, gimme. And the interesting thing about all of this, the irony of this, is that if you shift that, and you say to the universe, to the world, how may I serve? How may I serve? The universe's response back to you is, how may I serve you? How may I serve you? And it's very intriguing. When you take your energy and your attention off of what you are demanding from the world, and instead saying, what can I give to the world? It comes from your saying to the universe and to the world, what can I do for you? How may I serve you? Life supports life in the same way that you put it out there. So the irony of all of this is that when you shift into a how may I serve you mentality, you get all of the things that you used to demand from the universe but never seemed to arrive in a sufficient amount because it was always demanding so much more of you. But the moment that you start serving because it will then serve you, you're doing the gimme, gimme, gimme thing. Does that make sense? So you have to shift and not be attached to what it is that you get. And it's really the basis behind that very famous line of the President John Kennedy's inaugural address. Ask not what your country can do, ask what you can do for your country. And the irony of that is, and I've learned that in my own life, that when I stopped thinking about what was in it for Wayne Dyer and how much could I get, and I began to shift and say, how can I help you? How can I give to you? What can I do for you? And people who write to me, I send them something. When I encounter somebody that needs help of some kind, I'm very often just giving that to them. And then I find that it just keeps coming back into my life. And once I shifted that energy off of what can I have into what can I give, it seemed to me that the universe responded back with the very same message. What can I give to you? And the most incredible and wonderful and beautiful abundance has flowed into my life in every way that I can possibly think of. You can't give away what you don't have. So take a look at an inventory of what you do have. How much do you love yourself? How much kindness do you have in you? How much peace do you have in you? How much joy do you have in you? And if you're able to give that away as many times as you can in a given day, watch and see how much more of that continues to show up and come back in your life. And if you're putting out there into the world that I am not worthy of attracting something beautiful into my life, that the universe will respond back to you with exactly that message. And there are people who come to me and who came to me for years when I had my own counseling practice and so on, and they would say to me, I just keep attracting the same kind of people, the same kind of events, the same kind of losers into my life. Why is that? Why do I keep doing that? And I keep attracting an absence of abundance. I just can't seem to attract abundance into my life. I'm always behind the 8 ball. I'm never getting ahead. And I suggested to them, I said, did it ever occur to you that that's the very kind of message you're sending out to the world and out to the universe?
Throughout life, you've been through a conditioning process that's created a mindset overflowing with, I am not. As a school child with a less than satisfactory grade on your report card, you thought to yourself, I am not smart. You place anywhere other than number 1 and say, I am not talented. You feel criticized and believe that I am not good. You look in the mirror and compare yourself to a glamorous movie idol or homecoming queen and tell yourself, I am not attractive. Your relationship fractures and you think, I am unloved or I am unworthy. These and many more like them are repeated throughout your developmental years and into adulthood and become your core defining self-concept. You are listening to this book because you wish to elevate your life to heights way beyond ordinary. You are endeavoring to adopt new truths that are harmonious with your higher and highest self. Now is the perfect time for you to begin discovering the God within you and yourself as God, and to expand your self-concept. I applaud you. Your self-concept is everything that you believe to be true about yourself. Overcoming this I am not mentality begins with trusting your inner world of spirit. There are no boundaries restricting your inner world, but your worldview and your self-concept in the outer world are defined by your 5 senses. The outer world is always changing, which by our previous definition means it is not real. This awareness could lead to you experiencing a majestic wake-up call right here, right now. How does it feel to realize that most of what you believe about yourself and your limitations is based on an illusion? A well-intentioned illusion handed to you by people in bodies that no longer exist in a time that has passed. Much of your self-concept is a fiction based on beliefs that are untrue and contain no veracity when you were first exposed to them. This is exquisitely detailed by Anita Moorjani, who had a near-death experience, an NDE, that challenged all of her previous self-concepts about who and what she was. Her story illustrates that there's another dimension where you can become one with God and create miracles in your everyday life. While in her NDE state, Anita was shown that everything going on in our lives is dependent on this energy around us, created by us. Nothing is solid. We are the creators of our surroundings and life conditions depending on how we use this energy. Our physical bodies become sick because of the energetic level at which we live. As Anita reported, I realized that if I went back, it would be with a very healthy energy. Then the physical body would catch up to the energetic conditions very quickly and permanently. I was given the understanding that this applies to anything, not just diseases. Anita was given the opportunity to return to her cancer-ravaged body. Astoundingly, 4 days after her NDE, her body showed almost no signs of cancer. Anita realized that the seemingly solid world that our senses offer us is really an illusion. She changed the outcome of test results and concluded that we can change anything by changing our energy that we create with our thoughts. For her, this included a reality called cancer because a shift in consciousness actually made it disappear. Quote, she says, "From what I saw, it looked like we are energy first, and physical is only a result of expressing our energy," she says. And then she says further, "And we can change our physical reality if we change our energy," unquote. This is what your declaration of I am God can be for you. God is not physical. It is energy. And this divine energy is not like the material world energy that your senses report to you. Anita reported that she experienced a profound awareness that everything and everyone are interconnected. There is no separation. All she had to do to heal her physical body was to merge into God consciousness and be perfect love. Quoting her, she says, "I felt one with everything. I felt a connection with every living thing, and it felt like the whole universe is within me," unquote. She reports that time and space felt very different in that dimension. She's quoted as saying, "It doesn't feel linear like it really does here. It felt like everything was happening simultaneously," unquote. Anita came to find that even past lives are not past. The words that best describe them are parallel lives because there is no time and no separation. That idea is something that our senses find next to impossible to comprehend because we think linear. Cause and effect, before and after. For Anita, there was only love, and it was an all-consuming love that she described as constructing the entire world. She says, "I was also flooded in an all-encompassing, unconditional, loving energy. This universal energy is there for us no matter who or what we are. I felt amazingly powerful and magnificent." The world that Anita experienced while in her NDE is also your world. It requires making a shift to the true understanding of what the words I am signify to you. Live from the perspective that all things are possible, planted firmly in the depths of your imagination. The more you believe in your own divine nature, the more it starts to become real for you. Anita's almost instantaneous healing from an imminent death prognosis taught her that our highest self is unconditional love, no separation, no time, no judgment. As she puts it, quote, "Whatever you believe, you will find that you are correct," unquote. Just think of the importance of living from this perspective now, rather than hoping it will become your reality sometime in the future or after your body dies. Living from the I am God awareness necessitates knowing that you are one with transcendent unconditional love.
The inner knowing that you no longer have to lie or distort anything for the sake of the approval of others, or to elevate yourself in others' eyes, is the freedom that truth brings. The way I figure it, that if Saul of Tarsus, a murdering thief, can be transformed in a moment of holy insight and become the apostle St. Paul simply by letting in the truth and living it, so can Wayne Dyer admit to his mistakes of the ego and live the truth, and so can you. As Thomas Merton put it, we must be true inside to ourselves before we can know a truth that is outside of us. Moving from phony to real is first being true inside and then experiencing the truth of living it. As you begin to live these truths, you not only turn your own world around, you also affect the transformation of the world around you. The truth not only sets you free, but it will set the world free as well. The world's ego cannot stand up to the celestial light of the truth any more than your personal ego can. The distortions that you see around you, the cheating, the lying, stealing, and killing, will begin to disappear as we reach within our own individual selves and transform the ego energy. Here are some suggestions for ridding yourself of deception and embracing truth full time. Make an inner commitment to establish a new relationship with truth. The way to make this happen is to catch yourself when you're exaggerating or deceiving anyone, including yourself. Then silently tell yourself that you are about to puff yourself up by overstating the truth. Decide to simply relate exactly what happened, no more, no less, and see how that feels. You will discover as you catch yourself immediately before the lie that you are consulting your higher self,
which flourishes in truth instead of giving in to ego demands to be false. You will enjoy a deeper, richer experience of life that feels refreshing compared with the phony presentation of yourself seeking approval. Be on the alert for inner dialogues that dwell on your accomplishments rather than the path of purpose. Recently, I remember giving a speech to a large group of radio broadcasters and was very pleased with my performance. After the lecture, as I was jogging, I was reliving the lecture experience. At the very moment that I was seeing in my mind's eye the crowd getting to its feet and applauding, I turned a corner and smacked my elbow into a wall so hard that it sent a sharp pain through my arm that lasted for several weeks. Every time I felt that pain, I was reminded to get my ego out of the way and stop focusing on myself. I was reminded of my purpose and my service and not to get caught up in the applause. Inner dialogue about your purpose in life will keep you on the path. Be silent. When you are unsure about whether to tell the truth or distort because you feel that the truth will be more painful than it is worth, then do and say nothing. You are not obliged to anyone to reveal every detail of your life. You have the right to remain silent and learn your lesson in that silence. Develop a personal truth that is unassailable from outside forces. Simply declare your own agreement to practice truth and to be independent of the good opinion of others. Resist the need to boast and to talk about yourself. Strive to be interested rather than interesting. This is the way of the higher self. Become the listener, the one who is interested in the accomplishments and activities of others, and you will not need to boast and to distort your personal storyline. If you find yourself exaggerating, stop. Just stop and verbally correct yourself. You don't need to explain that you are breaking your habit of exaggeration. Just correct the statement. Write your own personal honor code. In your words, describe your intention to make truth the way of your thoughts and actions by suspending your need to deceive yourself and others. Then internalize your code of honor by reading or reciting it to yourself on some regular basis. You will eventually radiate your inner spirituality and you will have discovered a blissful way of being in this physical plane. Know that being credited is unimportant. Remind yourself that when you're fulfilling your life's mission, credit and accolades are unimportant. The irony here is that the more you seek approval, the less you receive. No one really approves of an approval seeker. Letting go of the need for approval leaves you open to embrace the truth. The Sufi poet Rumi's words sum up this subject of truth versus deception. When you eventually see through the veils to how things really are, you will keep saying again and again, "This is certainly not like we thought it was." It will be more than you ever might have imagined when your ego was leading you away from the way of your sacred self. You no longer need to project anything other than your peaceful divineness to friends, family, and even strangers. You've made the transition from phony to real in a holy instant. You recognize your inner sanctity and are willing to forgive yourself for any and all mistakes now viewed as lessons. You have moved to truth.
When you get to the place where you see yourself as that spiritual being, all of your fears disappear and you're able to surrender. I remember someone reading one of my books, and I was at a talk, and at the end of the talk she stood up and she said, "You know, I didn't get very much out of your book. It was your sacred self." She said, "I didn't get much out of it." Some people need to tell me that. And I said, you know, there's just lots of other books out there as well, something to that effect, and it's already done, because when people tell me that I should have written it one way or another, I said, it's just so much trouble to recall them all, you know, it's like, there's too many out there, you know? She said, "But the one thing that I did get out of your book is that I no longer have a fear of death." She said, "I'm just not afraid to die anymore." I said, "That's all you got out of one book?" I mean, Freud lived a whole lifetime saying that the major fear of every single one of us as human beings is this fear of death and what it is and where we go, and that's all been wiped out in one book, and you didn't get very much out of it? But truly, when you get into that place of surrender and understanding the infinite nature of who you are, that the part of you that is invisible is truly infinite, the fear of death goes away. Maslow once described the flaws of self-actualizing people. The flaws. And the number one flaw, he said, of self-actualizing people is that they get over death almost as if it didn't happen. Because for them it doesn't. One of the essays I wrote from in Wisdom of the Ages was from Rumi. In his observation, he said, I saw death drinking a cup of sorrow. And I called out, it tastes sweet, does it not? You've caught me, grief answered, and you've ruined my business. How can I sell sorrow when you know it's a blessing? That's from Rumi in the 13th century, one of the whirling dervishes. So being able to find the infinite place within yourself, that's what Valerie's book is about, the infinite mind, and knowing it, and going there, and knowing that you can't die. You just can't die. The part of you that is infinite was never born and never dies. And coming into grips with that, that's what I mean when I speak about spiritual. I'm also speaking about the power of emptying your mind. Emptying your mind. Getting quiet. I've told people many times that meditation is a very important part of the spiritual process. And I don't encourage or ask people to meditate because it will make you more relaxed. It will bring you more peace. You will find more harmony. It'll make you look younger because it takes the stress right out of your life and out of your skin as well. And people who've been meditating for 15 and 20 years often look much, much younger than their actual physical age. I'm 92 years old. I know that's hard for you to believe, but I tell them those are not the reasons to meditate. They're all sort of part of the sideshow of meditation. That the reason to learn to meditate is that it is the only way that you can come to know God. And the reason that is true is because God is the one power in the universe. That theme will be stressed over and over here. There is one power in the universe, not two. Most of our problems, quote, problems, come from our belief in two powers. The power of something that is God, but also the reverse, the power of something that is not of God. But I am suggesting here over and over again that there's only one power, and anything that does not appear to be of God is God going away from God. It's love going in the wrong direction. Because there's only one power. This whole category of things that we call problems, which the Course tells us are just all illusions. They're all things that can't be real, and nothing that is not real can exist. Even though it appears to exist, in reality, it's not there. So what has this got to do with emptying your mind? If God is everywhere and there's only one power, it means there's no place that God is not. If there's no place that God is not, God is indivisible. You can't cut God in half and put God here and then non-God here. God is that which is indivisible. And what is the only experience that you can have that is indivisible? Everything in your physical world, the material world, the world of illusion, the world of Maya, has a dichotomy attached to it. In the Bhagavad Gita, it teaches us to blend or blur the dichotomies. Up, down, good, bad, right, wrong, male, female, old, young, conservative, liberal. There's always an opposite, North Pole. I used to teach a course in metaphysics at St. John's University back in New York in the 70s. And I used to tell my students, anybody who can come to class with just the North Pole of a magnet gets an A in the course. No South Pole, just bring in the North Pole. And no matter how thin they would slice it, there was always in the physical world, what? Its opposite. All right? It's the world of opposites. So how do you get past the world of opposites to find the world of spirit? You go to silence. Silence, said Melville, is God's one and only voice. Because God is indivisible and silence is indivisible. You cut silence in half and what do you have? More silence.
Having a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing sounds easy until you think about how much conditioning has taken place in your life and how many of your current thoughts were influenced by geography, the religious beliefs of your ancestors, the color of your skin, the shape of your eyes, the political orientation of your parents, your size, your gender, the schools that were selected for you, and the vocation of your great-grandparents, to list only some possibilities. You showed up here as a tiny infant capable of an infinite number of potentialities. Many of your choices remain unexplored because of a hopefully well-intentioned conditioning program designed to make you fit the culture of your caretakers. You probably had next to no opportunity to disagree with the cultural and societal arrangements made for your life. There may have been some adults who encouraged you to have an open mind, but if you're honest with yourself, you know that your philosophy of life, your religious beliefs, your manner of dress, and your language are a function of what your tribe and its heritage determined was right for you. If you made any fuss about going against this preordained conditioning, you probably heard even stronger voices insisting that you get back in line and do things the way we've always done them. Fitting in superseded having a mind that was open to new ideas. If your parents were Jewish, it's unlikely that you were raised to honor and respect the Muslim religion and vice versa. If both your parents were Republicans, it's improbable that you heard the virtues of the Democratic Party extolled. Whatever the reasons our ancestors may have had for not having open minds, it's true that they inhabited a much less populated world than we do. In today's overpopulated world, we simply cannot continue to live with those old styles of closed-mindedness. I urge you to open your mind to all possibilities, to resist any efforts to be pigeonholed, and to refuse to allow pessimism into your consciousness. Having a mind that is open to everything and attached to nothing seems to me to be one of the most basic principles that you can adopt to contribute to individual and world peace. No one knows enough to be a pessimist. Find an opportunity to observe a tiny little green sprout emerging from a seed. When you do, allow yourself to feel the awe of what you're seeing. A famous poet named Rumi observed, "Sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment." The scene of an emerging sprout represents the beginning of life. No one on this planet has even a tiny clue as to how all of this works. What is that creative spark that causes the life to sprout? What created the observer, the consciousness, the observation, and perception itself? The questions are endless. A short while ago, Earthlings in the space program were moving a tiny vehicle on Mars via remote control. Invisible signals took 10 minutes to travel through space and arrive to make right turns and instruct a scoop to pick up some Martian real estate to examine. We all marvel at such technological feats, but think about it for a moment. In an endless universe, Mars, our closest neighbor, is the equivalent of moving a billionth of an inch across any page that you might be reading. We move a little vehicle on a neighbor next door, and we're so impressed with ourselves. There are billions and billions of planets, objects, and stars in our galaxy alone, and there are uncountable billions of galaxies out there. We are a speck in an incomprehensibly vast universe that has no end to it. Think about this. If we found the end, would there be a wall at the edge of the universe? If so, who built it? Even more perplexing, what's on the other side of the wall, and how thick is it? How can anyone be a pessimist in a world where we know so little? A heart starts beating inside a mother's womb a few weeks after conception, and it's a total mystery to everyone on our planet. In comparison to what there is to know, we're only embryos ourselves. Keep this in mind whenever you encounter those who are absolutely certain that there's only one way to do something. Resist being a pessimist. Resist with all your might, because we hardly know anything at all in comparison to what there is to know. Can you imagine what a pessimist who lived only 200 years ago would think about the world we live in? Airplanes, electricity, automobiles, television, remote controls, the internet, fax machines, telephones, cellular phones, and so on. All because of that spark of open-mindedness that allowed progress, growth, and creativity to flourish. And what of the future and all of your tomorrows? Can you picture faxing yourself back to the 14th century? Flying without machines? Telepathically communicating, demolecularizing yourself and rearranging yourself on another galaxy? Or cloning a sheep from a photograph of a sheep? An open mind allows you to explore and create and grow. A closed mind seals off any such creative explanation. Remember that progress would be impossible if we always did things the way we always have. The ability to participate in miracles, true miracles in your life, happens when you open your mind to your limitless potential.
There's two concepts here that are very important. One is the question of willing something to happen. All right? So what they think of when they think of having faith is that, all right, on August the 13th, if there really is a God, or if this really works, then I will get the phone call that will give me the biggest break of my life on August the 13th, and that's the way it's going to be. Or maybe even in just some small way, like on September 15th, I will get rid of this wart that's on my nose or something. So it's like willing things to happen in the universe. That will lead you to frustration and disbelief and an absence of faith, and the awakened life, or looking at life from the enlightened perspective that I'm talking about and discovering this inner universe, will always be like just outside of your grasp if you're testing God or testing the universe in some way. So that's like willing things to happen. Just through the power of my will, I can make it happen. The second principle here is what I call being willing. In this case, it's different than willing something to be. This is called being willing for it to be. And that is a whole new way of testing the universe. It isn't making a demand. It isn't, if I can get this bird to land over here on this branch, and that's going to be the signal that I'm looking for. It isn't anything like that, because the universe doesn't work that way. And it is like, I am now going to be willing to allow what it is that I want to happen to happen. I'm going to be willing. I'm not going to demand anything. I'm not going to ask anything special for it to happen. I'm just going to be willing. Now, I'll give you a really bizarre example of this. I was meditating on Maui this past summer. On a couple of occasions, there would be peacocks which would walk through the grounds in this particular place where I was meditating. I can remember trying to get them to come to me. Like, oh yeah, let me see if I can make this peacock walk over to me. It just ignored me, like it was maybe 30 feet away. And then when I stopped that, stopped demanding anything, stopped trying to prove anything, and I just really, you must emit some kind of a different energy or a different feeling or whatever, because when I did that, almost every morning after doing that, the peacocks would come over and literally stand right next to me where I could touch them. And they usually will stay further. In fact, I had grass in my hand one time and came over and literally ate the grass right out of my hand. And it would happen morning after morning when I was willing. If you're attempting to will something and demand something and prove something, I find that that very demand is a judgment, and it's a doubt. And that doubt itself interferes with the natural and perfect way the universe is unfolding, and you in it. Whereas if you stop the demand, that is, stop the doubt, and just allow yourself to be, I'm saying to you, instead of willing it to happen in your mind, be willing to allow it to happen. Picture whatever it is that you want to picture for yourself, and don't make any demands on it. And understand, if you understand the new physics, the quantum physics, that in quantum physics, Fritjof Capra and Gary Zukav, both of them talk about this in their books, The Tao of Physics and The Dancing Wooly Masters and The Seed of the Soul, that when you observe an object in the universe, whatever it is, even a stone, that the actual observation of the object itself has an impact on it. Just the observation of it. Your presence in and around any object in the universe at the tiniest, most subatomic level that you can get at, they're discovering that just your presence of observing something has an effect on it. So if you are observing something with a demand, and you can come up from the quantum level through the subatomic, subatomic to subatomic to atomic to the physical world that you experience,
understand that your demand, or your observation of, or your judgment of, or your insistence upon is enough to keep it from happening and allowing it to unfold in its natural perfection. Whereas your willingness, that's the difference between faith and a demand. Faith is like, I go with it. I know. And then I start seeing miracles around me all the time. Whereas the doubting Thomas, or the person who's trying to test it all the time, will find that their very testing of this kind of phenomenon will in itself emit enough doubtful energy to keep it from working for you in your life. You are both a physical body in a material world and a non-physical being who can gain access to a higher level. That higher level is within you and is reached through the stages of adult development. I present these stages with some degree of expertise because I've spent many years in each of them. They have been stepping stones to my awareness of my higher self. Each stage involved experiences that permitted me to move ahead in my thinking and my awareness. There are 4 stages of adult development. The first is called the athlete. The word athlete is intended as a description of the time in our adult lives when our primary identification is with our physical body and how it functions in our everyday world. This is the time when life seems impossible without a mirror and a steady stream of approval to make us feel secure. The stage of the athlete is the time in our adult development when we are almost completely identified with our performance, attractiveness, and achievements. Obviously, it is healthy to take good care of your body by treating it kindly and exercising and nourishing it in the best way your circumstances allow. Having pride in your physical appearance and enjoying compliments does not mean you are body fixated. However, if your daily activities revolve around a predetermined standard of performance and appearance, you are in the stage that I am calling here the athlete. The second stage is identified by the word the warrior. When we leave the athlete stage behind, we generally enter the stage of the warrior. This is the time when the ego dominates our lives and we feel compelled to conquer the world to demonstrate our superiority. My definition of ego is the idea that we have of ourselves as important and separate from everyone else. The ego-driven warrior objective is to subdue and defeat others in a race for the number 1 spot. During this stage, we are busy with goals and achievements and competition with others. This ego-dominated stage is full of anxiety and endless comparison of our successes. Trophies, awards, titles, and the accumulation of material objects record our achievements. The warrior is intensely concerned with the future and who might be in his way or interfere with his status. The third stage is identified by the term the statesperson. The statesperson stage of life is the time when we have tamed our ego and shifted our awareness. In this stage, we want to know what is important to the other person. We've begun to know that our primary purpose is to give rather than to get. The statesperson is still an achiever and quite often athletic. However, the inner drive is to serve others. Authentic freedom cannot be experienced until one learns to tame the ego and move out of self-absorption. When you can let go of your own thoughts about yourself and not think of you for a long period of time, that is when you become free. The statesperson stage of adulthood is about service and gratefulness for all that shows up in your life. At this level, you're very close to your highest self. The primary force in your life is no longer the desire to be the most powerful and attractive or to dominate and conquer. You have entered the realm of inner peace. It is always in the service of others, regardless of what you do or what your interests are, that you find the bliss you're seeking. There is one stage even higher than the statesperson, and this can be described by the word the spirit. When you enter this highest stage of life, regardless of your age or position, you recognize your truest essence, the highest self. When you know your highest self, you're on the way to becoming a co-creator of your entire world, learning to manage the circumstances of your life and participating with assurance in the act of creation. You become literally a manifester. The spirit stage of life is characterized by an awareness that this place called Earth is not your home. You know that you're not an athlete, a warrior, or even a statesperson, but that you are an infinite, limitless, immortal, universal, and eternal energy temporarily residing in a body. You know that nothing dies, and that everything is an energy that is constantly changing. This inner infinite energy is not just in you,
It is in all things and all people who are alive now and have ever lived. You begin to know this intimately. When you reach this level, you're in the space I think of as being in this world, but not of this world. Most people think of the spiritual world as a future occurrence that they will know after death. Most of us have been taught that the highest self is something that you cannot know as long as you're trapped in a body. However, the spirit is now. It is in you in this moment, and the energy is not something that you will ultimately come to know, but is what you are here and now. The unseen energy that was once in Shakespeare or Picasso or Galileo or any human form is also available to all of us. That is because the spirit energy does not die, it simply changes form. It can't die because it has no boundaries, no beginnings, no ends, no physical characteristic that we call form. That energy is within you. Gaining the awareness that you have a higher self that is universal and eternal will lead you to gaining access to the world more freely and to participating in the act of creation or manifesting your heart's desire.